All right, welcome back for another cognitive bias conversation. This time, I'd like to talk to you about the illusion of control. And we have all experienced it. And if you haven't experienced it personally, which I'm pretty sure you have seen it at a football game or a basketball game or something else like that. So you have a group of people that start making some kind of motion, they cross their fingers, they do something in the crowd during a free throw or a key kick or a key play or something like that. And all of a sudden, over time, you begin to believe that your action has some kind of influence on the game. I've even talked to people who said, "Well, I missed a game. I didn't show up to the game, and that's why they lost because they always win when I'm there." Well, um, true or not, that's questionable. But this is the illusion of control in its sort of obvious and really blatant form. But the illusion of control also shows up in other ways in our lives as well, even in our relationships, our interactions, our conversations, our problem solving. And so sometimes when you're trying to solve a clue or a problem or something like that, you try something and maybe your attempt correlates with a positive outcome, and you start to connect those two and falsely believe that they are related. They may be related, but they're not necessarily related. So your actions or your thinking doesn't necessarily cause it. There's a kind of superstitiousness that comes with this illusion of control, and we can all fall into it, even if we don't consider ourselves particularly superstitious people. Most of us are looking for patterns and meaning in the world, and so and we want to have a sense of agency and ability to influence something, and and it can lead to all sorts of interesting behaviors. But if you're using it to try to solve, if you're in the middle of trying to solve a problem or solve a clue, whether you're on a literal or metaphorical treasure hunt, then we might want to keep this in check. And so here are 5 simple ways that you can do that. Again, keep in mind, as is true with every cognitive bias, these are not just things that you just put into practice tomorrow, problem solved. Cognitive biases speak to the way that our brain is designed, and they can, in a sense, they all point to something that can be good about how our brain works, but they can also be problematic when we're seeking to discover something that's objectively true and solve a real problem somewhere. So these are things that you have to work on. First one is list what's controllable versus what is not controllable. So when you're in a situation, actually stop and acknowledge and list out what are the things that I actually can influence and control, and what are the things that are really beyond my control. And while different people might debate and have different answers to that question, generally if you force yourself to kind of just be honest with yourself, or you try to be honest with yourself, you'll get a little bit better at it. And then when you find that a certain behavior or thought seem to match or parallel some other outcome or event, you might not be as tempted to believe that one caused the other, but rather they just sort of happen together or at the same time, if you list what's controllable or not at the beginning. The second one that I jotted down here is what's the probability? To ask that question, to think that way. So when you feel sure of an outcome, force yourself to estimate the odds realistically. So you're going to turn your gut feeling into clearer assessment. And even when you think that sort of your actions caused something or do cause something, challenge yourself with that question. Well, what is the likelihood? What is the probability? And maybe you think it's a 50-50 probability, but that's okay. That means that there's a 50% chance that it's not the cause as well. So it allows you to have a little more realistic viewpoint on the situation, which can be quite helpful. The third one is then debrief the outcome. So after you win or fail at something, ask what specific actions that I took resulted in this outcome. And it's good to do this in a conversation with someone else so you can have a little bit of a reality check with other people. But just asking that question, debriefing it, and maybe debriefing it with someone else, what actually caused the outcome. And then fourth one I have down here is run some simulations in your mind. So imagine at least 3 different outcomes where one is ideal, one is unexpected, and one is not very good. outcome. And if you if you think about a situation before you go into it, and you're doing what's called scenario planning. You look at things that are beyond your control and you say, well, what are all of the possible outcomes, or what are the most likely possible outcomes? You almost create this quadrant of four possible futures, four possible outcomes. And it also is getting you thinking about and acknowledging that there are indeed some things that are beyond your control. For example, as a consultant, I led a number of schools through this process when COVID first came out. I would help schools plan and prepare for uncertain futures. So one of the things that is beyond their control is how much COVID was going to spread nationwide, and in their state. Another thing that was largely, maybe not entirely, but largely beyond their control was going to be some of the regulations and the rules that were established by government entities, especially in the higher level governments. While you could influence them, not as quickly. So I would have them walk through and say, what about a high spread of COVID with high regulation, low spread of COVID with low regulation, high regulation, low spread? You get it, and you get these four quadrants. And then you can consider, okay, given these four possibilities, what would be our best response in each of the four situations? So now you're talking about what you can actually control versus what the things are that are beyond your control. So scenario planning, the research actually shows that scenario planning is really, really helpful for helping you avoid this illusion of control, because you're starting with a recognition of some things that are legitimately beyond your control. And then you're getting to a place later about, okay, what can we do? What can I do? What can I control? And then the fifth one is to adopt an experimentation mindset. So this means a posture of humility. And when you try something, it's not just about did I fail or did I succeed. You're simply conducting an experiment, and maybe the experiment has a high chance of achieving an outcome that you want, that's desirable, and maybe the experiment has a high chance of you not accomplishing what you want. Regardless, you are just a curious scientist of sorts conducting these experiments, and you want to see the outcomes. That can be really helpful. You try these five, you put them into practice over time, and you can find some really great results. Hope you find this useful. Look forward to your comments.